So let's discuss Scrum events. So as part of Scrum events, we will discuss the various events which take place during the whole sprint. So the sprint is the container for other event as we call it. If you can see this figure on the right side, it starts with the product backlog. So your product backlog have the product goal and it have the product backlog items. So your product backlog items are refined through the process of product refinement. So as a part of the product refinement process, the product backlog gets refined and it results into a sprint backlog. So the first event which happens is, or the first ceremony which happens is your sprint planning meeting. So as a part of your sprint planning meeting, the product backlog items get pulled in a sprint planning meeting, and the user stories, which are the utmost important user story, which are the prioritized user stories, they get pulled in a sprint backlog items. So uh, some of the prioritized user stories, which are part of the product backlog, get pulled into the sprint backlog and they become part of the sprint backlog. So your sprint backlog have the sprint goals along with the product backlog items. And this happens as a part of your sprint planning event or ceremony. So then the next important uh, aspect or event is your sprint execution. So sprint execution is basically uh, the complete sprint when the development team work on those prioritized list of user story. So as a part of sprint execution, there is a daily scrum which happens, and daily scrum is a 15 minutes time boxed activity wherein the team members talk about what they have done in last 24 hours, what they plan to do in next 24 hours, and if there are any impediments which they found, and if they need any kind of help. So as part of daily scrum, we carry out the inspect and adapt as part of the scrum philosophy. So inspection and adaptation are the two critical pillars which get uh, fulfilled as a part of your daily scrum. So daily scrum, as we call it, is fundamentally executed throughout the sprint, and it is an important element of a sprint execution. So as the sprint get closer to the end and as the team start delivering the items which are there in the sprint, we ensure to get a increment. So increment is the delivered or the outcome of a sprint which is in agreement for definition of done. So once you produce the outcome which is in agreement with the definition of done, that outcome can be referred as a increment. So these increment are are discussed and showcased through the sprint review meeting, and there are those demo and feedback for the product is conducted during the sprint review meeting. So once the increment or the demo for the product has been demonstrated in the sprint review meeting, uh, again that is fulfilling the aspects of inspect and adapt through the entire sprint cycle. Uh, if you receive any feedback, if there are any feedbacks which are received after demonstrating or showcasing it across to the stakeholders, those feedback get noted and get looked upon in the sprint retrospective. So as a part of the sprint retrospective, the team tried to look into the improvements, how you can have a better and refined ways of working in the next sprint. So all these improvements which can be a process improvement, which can be a product improvement. All these are carried out as a part of your sprint retrospective meeting. So after the increment is delivered, fulfilling the definition of done condition, there is always a refined product backlog. So the refined product backlog then is taken ahead and it undergoes the same cycle for the second sprint, with the sprint planning meeting being there, the sprint backlog item being part of the sprint planning meeting as an outcome, and then the whole cycle repeats again. So in this way, the whole cycle get repeats for a couple of weeks to deliver a sprint. So usual time duration for a sprint can be 1 week, which can be a minimum time, to a maximum of say 4 weeks. So that's how the product backlogs get converted into a product increment aligned on the definition of done. So your events enables the predictability by ensuring the kind of inspection and adaptation of the process towards meeting the product goal. So skipping any specific sprint event means that there is a loss of opportunity for the inspection and adaptation. So the three critical pillar, which is the transparency, inspection, and adaptations, are followed throughout the sprint cycle. So why we are saying transparency is because all the product backlog items are visible to all, so there's nothing which is hidden. So everything which comes across is there in form of product backlog item, which can be viewed by everyone. And then as a part of inspection and adaptation, the team try to work on those sprint backlog items or product backlog items. So sprint follows the three key pillar of transparency, inspection, and adaptation.